You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa. Okay, we are back. We are back live with this other session. This session was so important. I know a lot of you would be asking, did we have to exit the studio? Yes, we're testing really some other new softwares like you heard. Tumi said it recently. So we're testing a lot of products, some apps, some technical equipments here on Pan-African Daily. Now, it doesn't mean that we're using you as the test, but of course, we need the audience and the guests live in the studio for us to be able test this application. And it is okay. It is working. So our brother Charles, all the way from New York, is connecting. Isn't the place to be? And he's going to be teaching us a lot today. Though we said our topic was just on Ghana, because of course Ghana is celebrating today, as a matter of fact. But of course, he would be bringing other sectors in. So, Brother Charles, what do you want to teach? What will you be teaching us tonight?
So, first of all, happy birthday to Brother Toomey. I had sent a message in the chat. I don't know if he could still hear, if he's out on his way towards celebrating his birthday. But I just wanted to say happy birthday to the young king and admire his beard. He grows a better beard than me. I'm still struggling. he has a beautiful beard. So I just wanted to give the brother some love. It's important that we make connections with our young people and show them that we are here for them and that we love on them and celebrate them. So, Brother Toomey, if you're in the background somewhere, happy birthday to you, brother. May this year bring you infinite wisdom, abundance to do all that you have to do, but also to share with other African people and humanity in general. But I always put African people first. May you grow your family. May you find time to do the things that you want to do and everything that you need to do to progress yourself and as an African man. And that includes family. He don't want to talk about that, but yes, African men need to have family. You need to have family while you're still in your 20. How old is he today?
25.
So yeah, you need to have family while you're still in your 20s or 25, because when you try to do it at 40 or 50, it's a bit more of a challenge. So you may not be thinking about it right now, but find you a good African woman with some solid values, interests, and principles towards African people and start building your family, brother. Build that empire and then connect with other Africans. And that's how empires are built. Connect with other Africans with your family. It's not just about you and your family. It's about all African people. And the more people of us that you get together working towards a progress, the more we'll be able to see more towards that African Renaissance. So
Wonderful.
yeah, I wanted to do that first. But you got me on to talk today about Ghana and the citizenship process. So of course we'll talk about that. But being as it's the start of the new year, I also want to have a special message and talk to our African young people.
It's okay. It's okay. I would start by making some wishes also, because like I said, today is just an extraordinary day. A 7th of July, because of 7th of January 2025. Starting with the fact that if you look at this flyer, Ethiopians are celebrating their Happy New Year today, like we did on the 31st, or the New Year calendar 2025. But it's not the Ethiopian New Year. The Ethiopian New Year is the African calendar year, which is the 1st of September. Like they literally are still in 2017. So 1st of September 2025, they're going to be in 2018. But for the Gregorian calendar year, Ethiopians are celebrating today, the 7th of January, as their new year. So we on the Pan African Daily are actually also celebrating with our siblings out there in Ethiopia today, the 7th, right? So another big celebration that we had today is this one. We give congratulations, official congratulations
Beautiful,
to His
beautiful.
Excellency John Dramani Mahama, who is the sworn in president of Ghana. I mean, I think that's some of the topics that we'll be talking about today. So, I mean, he did some powerful moves, and the whole of this week is going to be the Ghana week that we're going to be talking about this leadership, which is the third time of being a president on in the same country. So we congratulate him, and as president, we wish him, again, may he reign in power. There were a lot of things that happened at the celebration today, at the inauguration and the swearing in. I mean, it was fantastic. We saw all the leaders, but all this we're going to be treating with you this week on Pan African Daily TV is actually Ghana, West Africa, the focus point. All the celebration messages and getting in touch with the African American, not just the African American, the diaspora in Ghana and the citizenship and a lot of things that we're going to also touch on it today. So, yes. So, over to you, brother. I think it's your show.
Uh, no, it's your show. I'm just a visitor. I,
No, but
I
it's
will
your
always,
program tonight. The
but
program is your own,
so
brother.
before the first thing I want to start with rather is giving thanks and honor to our Creator, uh, the forces that support the work of the Creator. If you're Christian, you might call them angels. If you're Yoruba and you practice Ifa, you might call them the Orisha. If you're a Khan, you might call them Abosun. If you practice the tradition of the Congo and the Haiti, you might call them Loas. But we want to honor the Creator and ask them to enter this space and enter our hearts and minds so that we may speak justly and wisely. We want to call on the Gungun, the communal ancestors, the Malcolm X's, the Dr. John Henry Clarks, the Sybil Williams Clark, Marcus Garvey, and Amy Jakes and Amy Ashwood Garvey. Ask them to enter this space and bless us with their spirit. We want to call on our personal ancestors. My mother, Brenda Joyce Beaton, that was her maiden name. My father, Charles Vernon Mitchell Jr. My grandfathers, John Beaton, Charles Vernon Mitchell Sr. My grandmothers, Beatrice LeBrew and Martha Irene Dobson. My great-grandfather, James LeBrew. My great-grandmother, Emma Rivers. The other ones I'm still in the process of pulling out, but I know there's a Frank Mitchell, there's Lula Coles on my father's side. We want to call all of these into our hearts, our spirits, our minds, and ask them to be with us, to guide us and strengthen us, to give us, as Dr. J says, a hope and vision for the future. We
Ashe.
have to start doing this more often. If we talk about African culture, African values, interests, and principles, we have to make it real. We have an understanding that there's more that we can't see than there is that we can see in this material world, that our ancestors are in us, in our DNA, but they're also in us and around us at all times. Just because they're no longer here in the physical does not mean that they stop existing. We have to call on that energy constantly. That's what differentiates us from Europeans. That's the biggest thing that differentiates us from Europeans. We have an understanding that God is in the universe and is the universe, and that we are God having a human experience, as Professor James Small says. This is what makes us Africans. And that's part of my message today for young people as we move forward in 2025. Here in America, 2025 is going to be a experience for us. with some call him the Orange Man, some call him 45, now they call him 47. I personally call him Chump. It's going to be inaugurated in a few days, and people are in the tizzy and the panic, but I don't really fear it because Trump is nothing but the continuation of white fear, white imperialism, white capitalism. He's almost like the physical manifestation of all that white people are and have been in this world for us, and we've survived it. So I'm not fearful of Trump, but in this year I want us to work on unity, and how we do that is that we have to begin to do certain things in a real serious way.
Mm.
So number one for me is that we have to seriously begin healing, because all this I found that acquisition of African history and African knowledge, if you're not healed, it's like throwing some wet paper against the wall. It'll stick for a while and then it slides down the wall. If put in African dashikis, African locks, all mud cloth, all this African finery on the European damaged goods. So we have to work on our healing. We have personal traumas, we have collective traumas, we have family trauma that has been passed on for centuries, most of it starting in the slave trade, and so perhaps some even before that, with the intertribal or interethnic warfare that preceded slavery, that enabled white folks to use one group of Africans against the other in the first place to capture Africans and bring them over here and enslave them. So we have to work on healing, and that's going to be a lifetime process. I'm 56 going on 57, so there's 56 years of trauma in my spirit. My personal trauma, my father's trauma, my grandparents' trauma, my mother's traumas is in me, and I have to work that out for myself. And I'm doing it. And I think even for our young people, and my message is mostly for our young people. I know you have the traumas of poverty, the traumas of your neighborhood, the traumas of miseducation, but you have to find a way to heal past that, because we need you, young people. We need you strong. We need you ready to go. We need you energized, and we need you to be able to work with each other in a collaborative way, or else we'll never get the freedom that and the African independence and the African Renaissance that we speak about so much. We need y'all ready to go. So start that healing process if you haven't already started it. Find yourself, if you need an African-centered counselor or psychiatrist or psychologist, start that process. If you need to do some rituals, which is one of the best African ways that I know to work on your healing, those rituals are not just something done here in the physical world. They also tie you to the what they call the metaphysical world, or the immaterial world that we don't see. Call on your ancestors, call on the creator, call on the forces that support the work of the creator. Ask them for healing. If you have some trauma with a parent or member of your family that's deceased, sit down, light a candle with a glass of water, and pray to God first, and then start talking. Call your ancestors' name out that you want to have this conversation with three times, excuse me, and ask them to be present. If you can, set out some food for them. You can share a meal with them and just start talking to them. Tell them how they hurt you, how whatever it is, how you missed them. Uh, Tell them what your hopes and the aspirations are. Tell them what you wish you could have done with them. But talk to them, and they are here and listening. So we have to start making this real for our young people. It's not spookism. What is in science? They tell us that energy is neither created nor destroyed, right? So what happens to the energy that is in these physical bodies once the physical body is no longer viable? The energy doesn't cease to exist. The energy is still there, still real. And this is how we have to break it down for our young people. You know, there's more. Yeah, scientists, physicists particularly have been trying for years to figure out how matter is created. And so they have this particle that some call it, I think, the Higgs boson, and some call it the God particle. But this particle that changes things from brings things from the immaterial world into the material world, and they're still trying to figure out how it works, but it works. Africans have known that it works for years. And so as we do this healing, we also have to start re-embracing, as I've been saying, African culture. Now, folks look at African culture as the drumming, the dancing, hip hop, dancehall, reggae. Those things are not culture. As Brother Smalls has said, though, he says they're tools of culture. I say they're expressions of culture, but we're both saying the same thing. African culture is the values, interests, and principles of African people, how we view our connection to the Creator, how we view our connection to the universe, how we view our connection to this earth that we live on, and all the things, animate and inanimate, that reside on it. And that those values, interests, and principles that we have guide how we use those tools, those expressions. So, for instance, we talked about Ghana today. I had to make sure that I put on my smock that Nana and Ketsia gave to me. Much
Yes.
love to Nana and Ketsia in Ghana.
Mm-hmm.
But this smock is clothing that's made with my camera by African
As you
hands.
can tell.
This is not some pre-printed fabric printed in Holland. This is actual fabric
Mm-hmm.
woven by African hands. And in the culture, or this one doesn't have designs. In African culture, for instance, the Shanti, they stamp the Akan rather, they stamp the Adinkra symbols, and each of those Adinkra symbols means something philosophically. They're what I would call, you know, using today's modern terminology, memes. They're images that once a person that's in the culture sees it, they automatically know the idea behind it or what it is, whether it's the two crocodiles sharing the same stomach should not argue, whether it's the Sankofa bird, whether it's the coma, the heart symbol. uh Africans know what that means, and that's what we put everything. We put all our values, interests, ideas, the things that we value into what we create. um I'm saying all of that to say that, you know, this is how we use the tools. This is how Africans, that, you know, Dr. J has this model, economics, politics, and culture. And economics, of course, relates to how you use your ecology. So Africans use our ecology in alignment with our values, interests, and principles to create jobs for ourselves, to create food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security for ourselves. That's how you move forward. So an African will make this fabric. Then that's a job for, or that's an industry really for African people. So we have to stop supporting Dutch printed copies of African fabric and get back to the creation of this ourselves on a wide scale. All our clothing should be made by African hands. What, from the weaving of the fabric to the creation of the dyes that dye the fabric, to the sewing of the clothing, the tailors should be African. These are jobs for our people. There's no reason, if we live and we need food, clothing, shelter, and security, there's no reason that a single African that wants a job or wants to create a business should be unemployed, right? And we have to look at it again using African values and principles as we create these things. The African has a deep understanding of how we are connected to the land, to the earth, to the air, to the water. So we do not, in the creation of things to sustain ourselves, damage the rest of creation. The Egyptians could have built, they could have made metal and plastic and all that if they wanted to, but you notice they didn't. For their temporary living quarters as human beings, they built things out of the earth. But for their structures that they wanted to last for millennia, they built out of stone. Stone does not poison the universe. It does not poison the water and the land. We have to return to using similar models, right? Over here, you know, we talk about China and India and how their industry has grown so tremendously since World War II. But they've also grown tremendous pollution. In China, they have these giant toxic bubbles of manufacturing residue going into their lakes and rivers. In China, there's perpetual smog, and India. During COVID, one of the things that we saw in India, I remember seeing a clip of a town that was by a mountain, and there were young people in their 20s and 30s who had never, like, you go out on your balcony, you could see the mountains from wherever you are. They could not see the mountain. There was so much smog around the town because of the manufacturing that they had never seen the mountain until COVID and everything shut down and the smog started to dissipate. And the young person went out in the clip, the young person went out on their balcony and they could see the mountain for the first time ever in their life. And they were just like, their breath was taken away. They couldn't believe how beautiful it is. We have to be mindful of what and how we create and how it affects the world. It's no matter. What does it matter if you have billions and billions of dollars, but you can't drink the water or you can't grow your own food? That's how Europeans think. Europeans have a very oppositional view of themselves versus nature. I don't. Some say it's because of that ice age experience where they had to fight for their lives in the ice. I don't know what it is, but their view is not. They don't see. And culture-wise, because there are individuals, you could go to certain villages and they have respect, but culture-wise, their cultures are very antagonistic towards nature. And we as Africans have not lived for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years with that viewpoint. We wouldn't have been able to survive if we had that viewpoint, because we would have killed off humanity a long time ago. We have to return to our values, interests, and principles. Of course, we know Ubuntu. I exist because we exist, but the other part of this is we exist because I exist. So there's a respect there's an understanding that I am part of a collective, but there's also respect for the individual personality. And then I'm trying to think in the comedic, there's terms I'm trying to remember. The ka naba. One is I forgot which one is which, but one is the individual spirit and one is the collective spirit to which all energies are a part of. So we always had a deep understanding of our connection as brothers and sisters. In fact, in certain African languages, the same word for cousin, for male cousin or female cousin, is the same word for brother and sister in certain cultures. So we have respect for our uncles, our mothers, our aunties, our grandparents, our elders, and of course our ancestors, as I said before. We have to return to those precepts of we're going to survive. We cannot be better white people than white people, but we could damn sure be the best Africans that we could be. So we have to return to those principles like Ubuntu, the 42 declarations of innocence, which I have up. If we could share the screen for a minute. So this is, of course, the famous scene. Pause and move forward. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back a second. This is, of course, are we sharing the screen now?
Do you want me to share?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just try to zip this forward so I can see on my end with the sound off. Okay, so let me zoom in here now. So, of course, many will recognize this. Let me try to zoom in a little more to make it bigger.
Mm-hmm.
This is the judgment scene, or part of the judgment scene from the Papyrus of Ani. But this is not the full. This is the Africans had an understanding of something. Now, folks call these the 42 negative confessions. We call these the declarations of innocence. And one spirit Like you see in this, the spirit is being brought before, but Ptah, I believe that is, by Tahuti, or some folks call him Thoth. Uh, there are 42 declarations that the Africans from Kemet said that one would have to pronounce in order for their heart to be judged lighter than a feather, which is the feather of Ma'at. Uh, I have not committed sin. I have not committed robbery with violence. I have not stolen. I have not slain men and women. I have not stolen grain. These themes of stealing, particularly stealing from older folks, stealing from the gods themselves, or God him herself. I have not purloined offerings. I have not stolen the property of God. I have not uttered lies. I have not carried away food. I have not uttered curses, meaning putting curses on people. I have not committed adultery. I have made
You
none
have
to weep.
a excuse me, you have a video that is running commercial in the background. Are you aware of it?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
yes.
that just pops up. Sorry about that. That's white folks and their commercialism. You can't look at a page without having a video or some commercial pop up. They have to have some. They have to be making some money off of it somehow. Uh, I have not committed adultery. I have made none to weep. I have not attacked any man. I have not. Where is it? I just saw. I have not stolen cultivated land. I have not been an eavesdropper. I have not slandered anyone. That's talking about divine speech and utterance. I have not been angry without just cause. So even the Africans of Kemet even looked at anger. Is your anger justified anger based on something that some wrongdoing that someone has done, or is it just you angry because of an ill temperament, or because of bad character? Character is very important for African people, from the people of Kemet to the people of the Akan to the people of in Yoruba. And the Yoruba Ifa tradition, we talk about something, and excuse me if I mispronounce it, but Iwa Pele, IWA, and the English version of it is IWA, and the next word is PELE. Good character. Good character is of utmost importance and is continued through to these days in our traditions. So I'll show you all of this, and we could stop sharing screen for a minute. I'm showing you all of this, young people, to see that we come from a deeply spiritual and principled people. Europeans wrote about us in the days of old days. They talked about the blameless Ethiopians. This is how they looked at, and when they said Ethiopians, they were talking about people of African descent, because in those days, uh, that was the key word, the code. That was the general word that they called all African people Ethiopians. So they talked about the blameless Ethiopians in the days of Greece and Rome, because they understand that the Africans acted in good character. And now that, in later days, that will come to be a problem for us, because we're so welcoming that we welcomed in people, even though they were strange looking and pale like nothing we had previously seen. But we welcome people into our communities. But we didn't know that these people were not people. They were not humane. They were not human beings. So that was I wouldn't say a character flaw, but that was an oversight on our part, and we soon learned the tragedy of that, mistaking them for being as humane as us. But we have to return for our own sanity back to these principles if we're going to survive, if we're going to bring about that African Renaissance that Dr. J, Dr. Jeffries, and Marcus Garvey, and Malcolm X, and Kwame Nkrumah, and so many others wanted for the African people. We have to return to what makes us us. We cannot be, like I said, we can't be better white people than white people. And so now, when we talk about returning home, returning to Ghana and other places that are beginning to offer us citizenship, we really have to make sure that people are vetted, and we need to make sure that there's a reacculturation and maybe even some rituals and spiritual healing, because we do not need the type of mess that's going on over here and in other places going back home to the motherland. And you and I spoke the other day. I was surprised. I'm watching a clip of one of these morning talk shows with Ebro or somebody or other, and the person is talking about they went to a strip club in Ghana, and I haven't been in a while since 2003 when I need to go back. Definitely, Brother Smalls is always trying to get me to go over there and joking with me saying I'm scared of some woman over there that's looking for. But we need to go back
We
to.
never know.
We need to go back to Africa as Africans, not as these what Fanon called it. Black face and white. What did he say? Black face and white mind. I forgot the exact phrase of Fanon. Oh, black skin and white mask. That's what he called it. But we don't need this double consciousness. We don't need this nigger consciousness. Excuse my expression. We don't need this Afropean consciousness on the continent. When we come to the continent, we should be coming back to make ourselves whole and ready to participate in the growth of Africa. We don't need strip clubs. We don't need the LGBTQ XYZ nonsense. Of course, we will respect everyone's humanity, no matter what their sexual persuasion or inclination. But we have to return as people that understand that the Creator created us as male and female to be, as the Christians say, fruitful and multiply, not to engage in I can't even say sex because Dr. Laila Africa told us that sex is for the purpose of procreation and maybe some enjoyment. But if a man and a man cannot procreate, a woman and a woman cannot procreate. Only a man together with a woman can procreate. And that's the way the Creator made us. Now, you can engage in whatever you want to engage with, but the African culture, all African cultures understand that a man and a woman must get together to create a family. And then from the family, you create clans and nation and so forth. All African traditions understand that. And we're not going to beat up our brothers and sisters that think otherwise, because of course, we understand what this sojourn for us has been. But we have to be clear about what African culture, our values, interests, and principles has told us, because they're deeply ingrained in our understanding of how the universe and how this earth works. Before we had schools, before we had great viziers and folks like Imhotep, the African school was the universe. It was looking at how the fish swim, looking at where fish are in salt water versus fresh water, looking at the fresh water and learning that we need that to survive. But if we drink that other water that has salt in it or whatever they called it back in those days, we will die. The African looked at the universe and learned from the universe because he opened himself, herself up to examination of his brothers and sisters in the universe, the animals, the land itself, the animals in the sea, the animals of the air. And this is how we learned how to survive, by looking at them. Many of our behaviors mimicked them. And then we took them at places like Kemet, and even on the West Coast, we took them and we created imagery and rituals and stuff to celebrate particular energies. So when we needed to call on those energies in ourselves, recognizing that we have the same energy to greater or lesser degree, this is how we survived. We didn't survive looking at animals only as food or dumb beasts, whatever. We respected the animal life. We respected, again, like I said, the earth, the air, the water. And this is how Africans survived and built great civilizations. And the greater our understanding of this relation, the more impressive we were able to build our empires. So we have to understand from what we're coming from. If we're going to have an African Renaissance, we have to tap back into that. And this is something I want to say to our young people on the continent. You have great traditions. Yes, there's been some mess mixed up in there too that we have to deal with. But I'm encouraging you that are back home on the continent to re-embrace your traditions and take the best of those traditions and discard the garbage and build on those things, because that is your strength. That is your strength. Unfortunately, here in America, we don't have a lot of those traditions. We were able to carry some over here, but we don't have a lot of those. But one of the strengths of the African American is that we can look at what you have home and realize how valuable it is. But unfortunately, back home, too many cases, people are discarding what they have for Islam and for Christianity, right? You're giving up your strength. But what they won't tell you, what Europeans won't tell you, is how they are conquering you, is they're taking your sacred. So all those things, for instance, in the British Museum, all of those things in the Museum of Metropolitan Museum of Art and Museum of Modern Art and people's private collections all over America, that stuff that they call booty and treasures, those are your sacred relics. And they understood once they take your sacred relics that they take part of your power. They can't take all of our power, but they try to take our sacred items so that they could conquer us. They try to take our sacred spaces so that they could conquer us. So they built forts and dungeons and palaces and these things on sacred spaces that were important to African peoples to try to conquer us spiritually and psychologically. But those spaces still exist for us. Those relics still exist for us. The golden stool still exists. The treasures of the Benin people still exist. We need to get those things back because those are our sacred spiritual items. And white folks are taking these things and using it to empower themselves against us. White folks are joining the Ifa tradition like crazy, but they're using our tradition against us with their wickedness. We have to take back and claim proudly our African spiritual, philosophical, psychological traditions and just take whatever we can that's good out of what our connection with these Europeans has brought us and use that for our success. But when we give away our strengths, when we discard Ifa, when we discard the traditions of the Congo, when we discard our Panther societies, when we discard Kemet, or let these Arabs and Turks go into Kemet and claim that as theirs, we're giving up our strength. We have to reclaim all of that. That's our connection to the great beyond. That's our connection to the creator, him, herself. We have to reclaim our traditions proudly and put aside those things that were imposed upon us, because the things that are imposed upon us are bringing about our destruction. Mm-hmm. They're keeping us in a subservient position. We have to change ourselves if we want to see change in the world. Mm. If we leave it to the European will continue to murder us. The European will continue to exploit us. The European will continue to destroy or poison the land. The European will continue to use us as sex slaves, which is what they do when Europeans go to Jamaica, when Europeans go to Kenya and other places. The white women are sleeping with the Maasai. They're coming to Ghana. They're coming to the Dominican Republic. They're coming to Brazil for sex trips. They're going to Thailand for sex trips. They're turning us into, excuse me, mama, but they're turning into us into whores for their sexual pleasure. And we have to stop that. We cannot afford to let Europeans bring it into Africa, and we cannot afford to let Africans from the diaspora with twisted mindsets bring it into Africa. So that's all I want to say on that, because I might get Brooklyn on you, Mama. I don't want to get Brooklyn on you, because we have to come real. We have to come real and tell the truth to our young people. And our young people, one thing I do want to say also to our elders and our young people, our elders, you have a position of leadership that is greater than you are currently assuming. The positions that you are assuming, many of you, are positions that are made for young people. Your position as an elder, whether you're in your 40s, 50s, you should be trained, or older, you should be training the young people in the skills that they need to become leaders and organizers. You should be sharing your wisdom and the war stories, or the stories of the interactions that you've had to deal with and the successes and failures that you had. You should be the ambassadors and champions, to use the words of that the Pan-African Federalist movement, of which I am a part, uh, speaks of. You are supposed to be our ambassadors and champions. You're supposed to be interacting on the international level. You're supposed to be raising funds on a massive scale. You're supposed to be building connections on a massive scale. Our young people should be the leaders that are organizing the masses, that are doing the day to day, right? But they need to be trained and prepared to do that. They don't need to be competing with you to become leadership. We have our own particular lane of leadership that we should be in. And trying to hold on to roles that were meant for young people, because we have European mindsets of that when you're over 34, 35, you're over 34, 35, you're seen as old and not youth, not worth value to the market because you don't buy as much. That's the European mindset. The African mindset of eldership is a great thing, and we need to embrace what it is. It doesn't mean you're unviable. It doesn't mean that you're out of ideas or energy. It means that you have another role in the African pantheon, the African family, the African community, that we need to step up to. And staying in the role, Jesse Jackson should not be the main face of Rainbow Push Coalition in 2025. This should be some young, viable person there pushing that agenda. National Action Network, Pan-African Unity Dialogue, Institute of Black World 21st Century, and so forth. UNIA. A young person should be the leadership of all of our organizations. But what happens is that we're pushing young people away because we refuse, those in eldership, my elders, refuse to give up positions where they're the person out in front. As an elder, you're not supposed to be out in front. We're supposed to be behind the scenes, sharing wisdom, helping the young people to pull things together, making the connections. That's the role of an elder. That's the role of an elder. But too many elders are trying to hold on to roles for which they're no longer suited, especially considering the technology and things that they're not equipped to deal with. So, young people, you have to find elders that are living up to being elders and not olders, as I say, uh, and in places, rather than arguing with elders that don't see where they need to be and where we need to go. Form your own organizations and work with the elders that you could work with in 2025. Because the way that we're going now, and I'm, as my association with Dr. Jeffries and other elders, I've been in a lot of different organizational settings and meetings and such. And all the meetings are having all the organizations are having the same problem: retaining, getting and retaining young people. Young people might come, but eventually they'll stop coming because they either grown disinterested or disenchanted with the process that is going on, and there's no space for them to learn and grow and raise up their level of consciousness and organization building. So they leave. It's in all of our organizations that I've been exposed to. So we have to make a change. And young people, uh, unfortunately, sometimes elders do not nurture our young people that way that you need to be nurtured. I could tell you from my experience that has been true. Um, but I've had some beautiful, loving people around me also that have nurtured me. But if you can't get it that way, talk directly to the elder, the ancestors. Talk directly to the Creator. Talk with yourselves, and we need more movement towards that Renaissance, that African Renaissance that we keep speaking of so much. So if you're not getting it in the settings that you are in, the organizations that you are in, come together in Ubuntu spirit and Ma'at spirit and make it the reality that we need for. And it's not just for yourselves, because we, as we said, African values, interests, and principles tell us that when we build, we're not just building for ourselves, we're building for our children, we're building for our grandchildren, we're building for our great grandchildren, and so on. The things that we build today will be manifested more so in the present. And it's up to us today to start building so that when the next generation comes, they could take it to this level, and then the generation after them could take it to this level. But if we don't start, or if we think that we can build generational wealth as individuals for our family, then we really don't understand the teachings of Dr. Leonard Jeffries, who tells us it's about a systems approach. You can't build a system. You can't defeat a system from working within that system. It's like when you go to your neighbor's house and play spades. Their house has one set of spades rules or chess rules or whatever games, Mancala rules, if you want to use that. They play it one way in their house and you play it another way in your house. So if they're setting the rules in their house, will you ever really win playing by their rules? Because they could change the rules like Europeans have changed the rules on us all the time since our interactions with them. They change the rules when it's they keep the rules when it's beneficial to them, and they change the rules when they see that they're losing. They change the rules and bomb us like they did in Tulsa or the move bombing in Philadelphia. They change the rules and change the terms in the IMF. They change the rules and change the terms in the transaction of money currency. They, for America, the US dollar to be $1 to 200 or 300 of our dollars is ridiculous. But this is what they do. They will change the rules whenever it needs be to benefit them. And we cannot afford any longer to go by their rules. We have to create our own rules, our own terms, and become, as we talked about Kuji Chagolia just this last week, self-determined and name ourselves, create for ourselves, create ourselves, and speak for ourselves instead of others speaking for us and naming us and defining us. We have to make those in Nguzo Saba, those 7 principles, real every day of our lives. We have to make Ma'at real every day of our lives. We have to make Ubuntu real every day of our lives. And we can only do it by being the Africans that we were born to be. So that's enough of me going off. That's enough of me going off, Sister Tata. You've been pretty quiet. But I feel that it's necessary to talk to our young folks and make it clear to them that you cannot be a better white person than a white person, but you could damn sure be the best African that you could be.
Thank you. I'm not quiet, of course. Like I said, it was your lectures, and I want to thank you so very much because you've said a lot of very important things. Just so many, not a lot. Everything you've said is the essence of our beginning. I bring you greetings from Professor James Moore. I bring you greetings from Dr. Jeffries Leonard and Rosalind Jeffries. I bring you greetings from Maponga Joshua, who is actually in the village in Zimbabwe. I bring you greetings also from Professor Pielo, who was with us recently, and they send all their greetings to us. I bring you greetings from Ambassador Tony Jaja and all of us that are here. But especially, we're bringing you greetings from the people of Ghana. And actually, they've been sending a lot, as we're also sending the energy and congratulating them on this inaugural day. And that spirit of us connecting and coming back is becoming so realistic. The one thing that the elders tell me to tell you is that we have to keep doing our work with no distraction. We have been called and we have been chosen to do this work, and we have to keep doing the work. And we are in the space of teaching now, like you said. Of course, teaching also has to do with teaching our healing process. Most of us have been giving that gift. Even just being here on the Pan African Daily for 4 years now, or getting to 5 years, all of us have been given a gift. If you have been on the Pan African Daily TV and you haven't received a gift, or been in the conscious community, necessarily not only here, but particularly here, because the conscious leaders that we have had, the teachers that have spoken to us, like Brother Charles is saying, we've had enough wisdom, too much to continue to ask for more. And so they have given us a lot. They have given you, we have given you a lot, young people, and ourselves too, the permission to really recreate again, recreate our minds, recreate our spirit. It is the last chance that we are given. Before, everybody was not. All of us were still just, as we know, lost. And why were we lost? Like Brother Charles, you're saying, we were just lost because finally, it's not only because somebody did something to us. We literally were lost because we refused to recognize who our ancestors were. It's like a child, you deny your father or your mother, he's going to leave you. And any person that will adopt you, or because you deny your parents, would never give you what your parents gave to you. So at some point, we were left because we refused our own consciously. And now we have been given to the wolves and say, all right, because you didn't know me, you didn't know us, go ahead. And now we have all tested. And now we're coming back. And actually, they said at the time we'll get back, we'll start coming back. So I really thank you so much, Brother Charles. Do you want to show, do you want to play something again?
So I
Yeah.
guess now we could. Well, I'll show this in a minute, but let me, actually says your return right there in the corner. That's which is good. We you called me on to be on to talk about Ghana, so I wanted to now when we have a chance talk about that process. But Ghana, as you can see, you can see it better. I have it in reverse. You can see the Beyond the Return uh, logo on the cloth that I was given. When they had the year of return in 2019, which was celebrating 400 years since 1619, they created something called the Year of the Return in Ghana. They created a campaign for trade and tourism. Um, as part of that process, Africans who had been residing in Ghana or have an intimate connection. Sometimes they go back and forth, like Dr. Jeffrey, Professor James Small, and others. Dr. Shelby Lewis from African Heritage Studies Association. Many of our great scholar warriors have been granted nana-ships. They've been made queen mothers, nanas, and so forth. But there's someone, and you'll bring one of our longstanding Africans, but Brother Kohane in Ghana. He's in Elmina region. You'll be bringing him on at some point, I hope. He's been living in Ghana for 30 years, and he was actually part of the first large group of Africans uh, granted citizenship, because he's been there 30 plus years. He's married a Ghanaian. He's built a couple of incredible businesses. One, Mabel's Table. If you ever get a chance to go to Ghana, family, go to Mabel's Table. That food is delicious. You hear me, sister? The food is delicious. But they also, I'm not sure if it's a hotel or small hotel or bed and breakfast, but they have that there as well, and they've been going for years. The folks like Professor James Small and Dr. Jeffries have acquired their own hotel. Um, and so if they haven't been offered, they will be offered. I'm pretty sure they've been offered. Or maybe Dr. J hasn't been over there in a few years because of age and ailments. But they saw that these Africans from the diaspora have been making great contributions. And so the first cohort of people that were granted citizenship was around 2019. That's what this video is about. You see it in the top corner of the year, the return Ghana 2019. So if you want to share a little bit of this, it's about 4 minutes. We can let this run.
There's no volume.
Mm-hmm. This is. Oh, let me go back a second. I know that would surprise me. Hold on a second. This family here, I saw them, so I had to stop. This is the Cambone family, and our elder Baba Kamal Cambone passed away. In fact, they just celebrated, memorialized the first year since his passing. This is a brother that was from New York, from Brooklyn. Him and his wife is here. I forgot Mama's first name right this minute, but the Camones are the epitome of a strong Pan-African family. So I had to stop once I saw them. And their son, Obalete, excuse me, brother, if I'm chopping up your name. He lives in Ghana. He has been living in Ghana. He teaches in Ghana, but these are his wife is somewhere in there. This is one of our strong African families. They Pan-Africanized. They left New York, went to North Carolina, built a house from scratch with their own hands in North Carolina, and helped raise up the African community in North Carolina. And then their son, their daughter Nataki, have continued the legacy of their parents of strong Pan-Africanism, so much so, like I said, as the brother has gone to Ghana and made Ghana his home and is teaching as a professor. And he has a website, a bb2mikasa.com, that when you all get a chance, you should definitely check that out. And it's an alternative to Facebook and all of the white media controlled by white folks and secretly controlled by the IDF and Mossad. You hear what I'm saying? Most of the social media, most of the news outlets, if they don't have the people crafting the news and the editorial as former members of the IDF or Mossad, they are actual vehicles or instruments of the IDF and Mossad. And that has that's whole other implications. But he's created something for Africans that's controlled by Africans, that allows Africans to interact. He has classes there on Tree of Ghana, of Wolof, of Yoruba, and you could go there. Kiswahili too, I believe. You could go to his website and re-Africanize yourself. And one of the best ways, by the way, of re-Africanizing yourself is learning an African language, which I have to do more of. I started Kiswahili, or my little I forgot what it's called. It's not Babbel. It's the other little language app. But we need to relearn African languages, because in learning African languages, we begin to rewire the circuitry of our mind in terms of how we think about brothers and sisters. As I said in Akan, in other African languages, the word for brother and sister is the same word that you use for cousin. I'm not sure what it is, what the difference is, are unique in the language. What is the language of your people, Sister Susan?
Emeta is a Bantu language.
Emeta?
Meta. Meta is a Bantu language. Yes.
So you have to begin to share some of that language with us. That this will help us rewire our minds as Africans, because when the language carries the whole language is like the verbal encapsulation of our values, interests, and principles.
That's so true.
And we have to begin to rewire our minds by learning African language, so that we can move forward as African people. That's another part of our healing and re-embracing our culture. But let me get back to this so you can all see this. That's our brother Cohen that I want you to have on. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. That was beautiful. I almost started crying, Sister Tata. But that was 2019. Most recently, Ghana is up the game. 524 people from the diaspora. As you saw in that previous clip, we're talking about Africans that practice Judaism or Hebrew Israelites. We're talking about Rastafarians. We're talking about Christians. We're talking about Muslims. But they all have one thing that precedes all of their spiritual religious practices. They understand that they are African. And this is the mindset that we need to. Malcolm told us this is where we need to move going forward. Malcolm told us as Africans that we need to keep our religion in the prayer closet and come out as what we are, nothing but Africans. Because you're born in the Caribbean oven, because you're born in the American oven, because you're born in the British oven, does not mean that you are biscuits. You are Africans. So it's good for us to see that Africans of all religious and political persuasions are returning home with the understanding that above all their political, religious, ideological ideas, they are Africans and they need to make that connection. So let's just take a look at this. This is the most recent. This is the most recent ceremony. This was posted a month ago I'm not sure exactly when if the ceremony was in November or December, but we see Brother Cohen. I think that's right there. As part of the ceremony. He'll be a great guest for the family to talk to because he's been there working with the African diaspora community for those 30 years that he's been there, and he's been building beautiful connections with Africans born on the continent, born and raised on the continent as Ghanaians, and the spiritual traditional houses and the political, the formal government.
Okay.
We'll stop that. Okay. So yes,
I
as
think.
Africans, what
Mhm.
is it? I'm sorry. Excuse me. I'm gonna close that up. Stop sharing for a minute. So as we go home again, as I said, we have to come correct. And so one of the things that I want to encourage for Ghana and the Sahel Alliance and other spaces on the South Africa as we go forward, I believe they need to have some uh, vetting of people to make sure that they're coming with the right spirit. But I also think there needs to be some classes on culture for those that are not familiar with African culture and African ways. That how we treat people, to dealing with the culture on the ground, to uh, doing business. As we spoke last night, a lot of folks think that they have very much a European or America. In America here in New York, it's go 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 all the time. I mean, even at night, 2:30 in the morning, Sister Tata, I've been on walking from I get off a train, and people are running 2 o'clock at night, running to make a connection on the other train. And I feel like I'm the odd one out because I'm just casually strolling to my next connection, and they're running like it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and and they're going home, mind you. It's not like they're going to work, but they rush. This American mindset of go, 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 have to make more money, have to make more money, have to, get into the office on time or whatever. It's ingrained in us. So then when folks go to Ghana, and then when around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, the Ghanaians shut stuff down, and because it's the hottest part of the day, and they go home and have a civilized meal and interact with families and friends, and then come back out later in the afternoon when it's the sun is down and it's a little more bearable. American American Africans are not used to that. They're not used to valuing people over material, and so there needs to be some real culture. They're not used to how land is purchased, or the idea that land is attached to the matrilineal line and not easily purchasable. Like, you go here in America, as long as you got the cash, you could get the money. I mean, you could get the land or the house or whatever it is. It's not like that back home. And so there needs to be some training and preparation for living as an African amongst Africans instead of living as an African amongst white people. I think you know, person's intent and the person's previous experience uh, need to be reviewed before they're let back on the continent where they could do more damage perhaps than than good. Um, I don't know. What are your thoughts about it? I'm switching it over. I'm becoming part interview. What are your ideas, Sister Susan, on how we should deal with as Africans? You know, we talk about reparations, but we don't talk about repatriation enough.
Mhm.
Because
I think
reparation. Go ahead, sister.
yes. We'll be rounding. We'll be actually rounding up in 5 minutes. What I want to think is, brother Boatwright has been expressing and sharing his thoughts here. I really can just not go back. Let me see if I could get some of the content. I think we have the right president for Ghana now. He's a Pan African, and there are more reasons why we have to engage on the continent. And I don't think we need to do all those ceremonies. And you see that video was just taken from the Ministry of Tourism in Ghana.
Mhm.
And so it was more of a commercial deal in 2012 with that 129 citizenship. The question that we're really going to be dealing with this week on Ghana is, if we look at that government and we look at that leadership and how bad Ghanaians say it was and every other person. So just getting a citizenship without having to contribute in the political um, design or even mentoring the president or the leadership is just nothing. And so
Right.
for me, I think we can do better. We can do better, like but the broad right was saying. You just go, you get your no ceremony about that, and you just go about your stuff. You are an indigenous of the continent. Why all those as if they're celebrating tourists or some other kind of people? So it's more of commercial, and I think that has to stop. It's so they have to stop it because it's more of a showcase. And I think when that president did that and saw the impact of how much is bringing into the economy, then they started to do it. Because even this 500 that got it, it was because he was aiming that they're going to vote him into presidentship. So the
Mm.
way of doing it is sad, is pitiful. I think also the idea of you saying when we go, there has to be some reintegration. Please, I'm telling you, you see, you're coming with a background of history. You're coming with a background of a history that on the continent has never been taught. They don't even know it. It is both ways. We don't want to fix integration causes and say this. Healing, like you said in the beginning, is really something that has to be conscious. Professor Baina Bello said it on our last show. We need to individually heal and then come together as a collective. Each and everyone has to work on themselves because all of us are not having the same illnesses. Most of us are truly really healthy, the conscious community, but we already can identify. If you don't identify with your Africanness, it's already a disease that has to be dealt with.
Mhm.
But my or the opinion or the messages that we really have to deal with, of course, it is very good to return home. It's very nice, and we understand that the diaspora is really following the majority. That's why Ghana is actually Ghana. We also know Benin is also doing that because of already what you do know in your circles in or what we know with the particular countries. Okay. We know Ghana because a lot of people, Professor James is promoting tours to Ghana, but also because of the history of Nkrumah and also Dr. Leona Jeffries and every other person, Malcolm X and everybody. But when we look at Tanzania as well, it has also that. But Tanzania is not branding. The origin of Pan-Africanism and every other thing, where the freedom movements and everything, where everything originated, even the formation of the Organization of African Union was Tanzania under the rule of Nyerere. But Tanzania is not waving a flag and say when you come. There are a lot of citizens going to Tanzania, a lot are being citizenized, and so many other people. So I think the president that we have now has a very good backing. He has been president for 3 times. It is not easy for your citizens to continue to love you for 3 consecutive times, and he's going to do the right thing in a Pan-African way, in a humble way, in a noble way, in a truthful way, not just waving flags, calling people and say we have given. What is so interesting about giving 500 citizenship to your own people that left? As a matter of fact, it's laughable. So because Ghana has done that and it's like a business model, other countries are beginning to copy that, and we must stop it. We must stop it with everything. All Africans in the diaspora have a right to motherland because that's where their ancestors were. And they have to come, they can come and go that with no preconditions and everything. A lot have been in Ghana for 30 and 40 years and more. And when you need them for your political agenda or for your promotion or whatever thing or for investments and stuff, then they become important. No, I think you said it. We have to go back to those values that actually, and we know our values is not a show, it's not a showcase, it's not a business strategy, it's not a business model. If you ask Reparation, our sister who is there, it is very unique that it has always been selling the citizenship. You go even visa on arrival now, countries are just getting African countries are just getting excited about it, and you can pay up to $200 just to get visa on arrival. Okay, so the barriers are still, and they're still very, very existent. I told you, I went to Ethiopia and I went to a lodge, and they told me I have to pay 1,000 beer, and the Ethiopians had to pay 100 beer, and I said, I'm not going in. You cannot discriminate me on motherland. That will never happen. I
Right.
wouldn't pay
Right.
something else. But I was ready to pay the $200 for the Ethiopian national to go in. So you see, we have been infiltrated and messed up with this way of doing business among us. And we
Mm.
just don't get it. Now the latest issue is selling businesses, selling visas on arrival. And I think this
Mm.
is what Professor PLO was talking about, or Professor James. It has to stop. Of course, we do know there are costs, there are other things, but it's the same way we keep copying the Eurocentric agenda because that's what they
Right.
do. We think it's the African way. That's not the African way. Where
Right.
have you gone to the village and you have to pay to get into a compound, or you have to ask permission, or you have to take some kind of stuff? That's not African. And so,
I
decolonizing
agree. Definitely.
this thought, decolonizing this way, we have to be able to read the signs very clearly, spiritually, to understand that this is not coming from a perfect mind. This is coming from a colonized and actually somebody that has a very huge agenda to extort its own citizens, priding that, oh, they have to come and go to the door of no return. And you see all these celebrities and everything that was being sponsored because, how many people go into Ghana and come back from the other African countries? But we are happy because
Right.
he's leaving. Now he said, okay, it's visa free for all African countries. Is that even a celebration or a news? It's a normal. It's not anything to discuss or to share as if it's something that is not. So we should stop celebrating that foolishness. Any African has a right to go back to the continent. It has access to the village, to land, to water and resources, and bring their own contribution. I think we're also understanding the fact that we're also just not going as business people. So it's the
Right.
responsibility of the
Right.
leadership.
Right.
It's also
No,
the
I agree.
responsibility of our own. And that's what keeps fanning out a lot of corruption. Too much corruption because people
Mhm.
have to pay and pay and pay. Why are you keeping your children for 30 years without giving them the permission to be able to do any other thing, even
Right.
when they're married, even
Right.
when they
They
come?
had the right of abode. Right. They had the right of abode, but no rights to participate in the electoral process in any serious way. And even in some aspects of when it come to business, because they weren't full citizens, business
Yes.
and land ownership, because they weren't full citizens, they were having many problems. No, you're right. It's not just about marketing. I spoke about the things that Africans in diaspora need to get rid of to come home, but there are definitely some things on the continent that need to be gotten rid of.
Mhm.
That those amongst the Africans on the continent that look at us as others rather than their brothers and sisters. That spirit needs to be gotten rid of. But the biggest thing that needs to get gotten rid of is that spirit of corruption, the spirit of what they call dash. This whole idea of dash is detrimental to African people working together and moving forwards. Uh, Unfortunately, we know that a lot of our people that work if the school teachers and people that work for government, sometimes they get paid on time, sometimes they don't get paid for a year or so. So many supplement their income with this dash business, and then there's some that are just greedy. Anything that they think is normal to do things like that. But the spirit, I mean, saying this, I also want us to realize that the spirit of dash, they don't call it dash here, but the spirit of bribery here in America is just as strong. So I don't want African people to think that this is just a problem of Africans. Here in America, if you want to get a building built, if you want to pass an inspection with the food or whoever it is that's inspecting your business, there's the spirit of dash. They don't call it dash. They might call it corruption. Uh, uh, Nepotism is the same thing in America, in the
Brother
West.
Charles, Brother Charles,
Cronyism is the same. The
Brother
spirit is
Charles.
still there.
Yes,
Yes,
I'm thanking you for that. But we have to do we have to start separating things. When I say separating things, we have to start being responsible and holding ourselves accountable. When
I
we
agree.
play talks this thing, like, because it is happening in Africa doesn't mean it's not happening anywhere. We're not going to move on. We don't want to develop like other people. You said it already. We don't want to.
Right.
And most of all these systems, we know that there is a attack called corruption, which we know against
Right.
even your own. And that's also a disease that was inherited or by the other system. But you cannot compare what is happening in America in a system that is stable. People have running water, light, and everything. By working with this same leader that you are doing that same, you cannot measure that thing. So I think we need to be really strict on not being, we downplay a lot of things that we need to take responsibility for. What I was saying, and we have to criticize that, and it should not happen, is that system of commercializing. What is about 500? You know how many African diasporans are in Ghana? How many are they? And to come out with 500, what is 500? We're talking about, it's laughable to even talk about that kind of statistics. So being responsible means we have to face the truth. Professors, the teachers here, that is the period of taking this responsibility that we're talking about. And that country, despite the number of African Americans that moved there since the 30s or the 40s, and never ever saw the daylight of Pan-Africanism, even when they had the role model of Pan-Africanism. To have had a leader like this that drove the economy into crazy, even water has been poisoned and every other thing in Ghana, it's unheard of. I mean, if you look at this leadership and the inauguration ceremony today, we're going to be showing it. We're going to be talking about it really in terms of, celebrating this new leadership, regardless of how it's going to look like. But like I said, why did Ghanaians keep going back to His Excellency John Muhammad Dramani
Mahama.
Mahad? So because it is just as simple as that you cannot corrupt a system. So what are the benefits of the African diasporans when they cannot contribute to political decisions? What are the benefits? So it's more like business people. And we said it a couple of times. No, come and invest back home. Come back home. It's as simple as that. We're not investors. We're not have to build businesses before you come home. Coming home is a ritual that every African should be called back to come home to motherland. And we do know what our responsibility. I just gave you an example. You go to the village, it was led by the elders. Now we have the weekdays, the cleaning days, the building of the bridges, the bridge. Everybody knows their responsibility. Nobody had to taught you or to teach you that is what you need to do. No. So I think when we start copying all these keywords, we know it's been infected. We need to stand to this responsibility and say, no, that is not what the Africa we want now. Let the citizens come back home, feel free to be anywhere they are, and don't treat them like foreigners in the same countries that they are. So that was just what I wanted to point on that. Like this talking of always doing things from the opinion of others, we already know that long time ago. We're not going to be telling what any other person did to us, but we're going to start teaching because to detox that, which we are doing to our own selves. And it's terrible. Do you know the poverty? I'm telling you, like literally people live sometimes like you ask yourself, is this the rich continent? Because of the bad governance and the leadership that we have. It's a fact.
No, you're right. You're right.
So
I cannot
we do know
I
that the
cannot deny that.
intelligence, the intelligence of the African was taken away, was hijacked from the from the continent. I have had conversation with leaders, German, not organic. I'm not saying German nationals, organic German elders that will not be able to speak openly, and they said it because sometimes we don't know. They say the intelligence of the continent was taken off into slavery, and until that intelligence go back, Africa will not get the pieces of what was broken from them. So if you know that, you will be charging your children again that are bringing that spirit, that intelligence back to you. No, you're simply just being a businessman to your own very children, and we must condemn that. And I think, look at the inauguration, who the incoming president invited. Traore Ibrahim and the Sahel Alliance was invited and present and well alive. That is already the symbol of unity. That's already the sign of giving a handshake. That's already recognition where truth is. So we cannot talk too much about the outgoings. It's been a lot of wrong done, and it's so shameful to just talk good speeches like he was good at speaking means nothing now in the consciousness and the new Africa that we're building. Means absolutely nothing. We judge you by your actions and your deeds. You can be the most eloquent.
Hey,
That's not going to bring anything to the African today. What we know is, even in terms of creating these jobs and this, if the young people, like he said it, resetting in his keynote inauguration, the President Mahama said, we are resetting the economy to create jobs and give opportunity to our young people. He knows what he's speaking. The Ghanaian people know who they voted. And all of them, you can see them, Kofi, John Africa, all of them, everybody is celebrating this spirit of Pan-Africanism from wisdom. I asked Professor James Moore, he said he's coming from a deep, deep background of knowledge. So
yeah,
let the gun be
I'm looking at the comments. Brother or sister S.A. Smith said, I agree. African descendants should not feel like they need to be investors or business owners to be accepted back home. I agree with that 100%. And what you're saying is not a business transaction. It's not just about economics. It's about making us whole and making African whole. Now, when I say us, I'm not just talking about those of us who are in the diaspora. I'm talking about us, the folks at home. Because I know, and you know, where when we go to the hotels in Ghana and other places, they don't. You talk about the treatment of us in the diaspora. They treat on the continent, our brothers and sisters are treating each other worse. We go
exactly
to a hotel and
because of ignorance. That's what I'm saying.
they're
You
not
know,
allowing native Ghanaians into the hotels, but white folks come in, and those of us on the diaspora on these tourism junkets can come in. But I actually had to argue with the guard at one hotel. I forgot which hotel we were in, because there were some young brothers that sell things on the street or whatever, and the guard wouldn't let them pass the gate. So we have to, but the white person come in, they walk right in, and and a lot of places we are treating white folks better than we treat our brothers and sisters citizens. And so that whole spirit needs to be eradicated from the hearts and minds of African folks, whether it's continental or whether it's diasporans. We need to see each other again as family that's been separated. What did the Christians say? The prodigal son has returned. We need to see that the prodigal sons and daughters want to return back to Africa. We have
But
to
I think
we have to change that. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
we would still have to. I don't know why my spirit keep telling me like Africans would have to fight against the leadership on the continent to get freedom. Like there's still going to be a war between us and us to be able to settle down the matter with us, not getting support, international support, not getting military support from all these kind of ones that are destabilizing. I think, and I've been saying it since 2020, my spirit keeps telling me we would need to go to war with ourselves to be able to bring that, because we already know what is wrong and what is right. Nobody has to tell us that or teach us that. But and you will see, the more consciousness we awaken, like you're saying, the more we live in our ancestors, the more we understand who we are, the more, I'm telling you, it will not be easy for the leadership that doesn't act well on the continent of Africa. And that's our duty, not the
No,
duty of any
you,
partners or collaborators to do that.
no, you're absolutely right, because if we look at the leadership, if we look at the wealthy, just say wealthy, not even the leadership, but if we look at the wealthy, there is this class that's developed, a class trained by Europeans and in bed with the Europeans, and they treat, like for instance, you go to Ghana, you go to Nigeria, you see, well, they call them gate boys or whatever, but I don't call them that because they're grown men. They treat the service class as less than, and that's a whole part of that class material mindset that's grown amongst our people. So they see themselves, those in leadership see themselves more in alignment with white folks and their leadership class than they see themselves in alignment with the regular everyday African person. And that's where that war is going to, we have to kill that mindset. This is not something that's new, sister. This is what, we talk about not that Tutton common. What's the brother's name? I'm seeing his face clear as day. In Egypt, one of the son of Tutmos, Akhenaten slash Akhenamen, he took over the leadership because he saw that amongst the learned, the quote unquote higher level folks, there was becoming a gross materialism, and they didn't call it capitalism back in those days, but they had become more concerned with acquiring materials and wealth than they became with the spiritual aspect of being leadership. Leadership for African people is about being of service to your people. So everything that's acquired or whatever is for the service of your people, is to make your people living conditions better. And Akhenaten saw that, and he moved away from the religion of that time towards Atanism, and he moved the capital to a different location, trying to break away from the old system that was pushing people into that the us and them, the rich and the poor. That's what that was about. And they murdered him because the greedy ones murdered him because they wanted the system that existed previously. And then they used Tutankhamun and those who came after him uh, to return back to the old ways. But when we look at the goal of Ghana, when we look at the Santahini, When the Santahini comes into a place, uh, of course, everyone acknowledges him and bows their head or whatever the tradition is. But the Santahini, if he's in the spirit correctly, he also must come down off his throne and shake the hands and greet everyone personally in the that's there. So yes, we acknowledge your leadership, that the authority granted by the people, but you also have to acknowledge that your authority is granted by the people and could be taken away by the people if they see that you are not living up to the standards of service. Leadership is service. It's not about I'm better than you. It's not about I can acquire wealth for myself. Leadership is about getting in a position to be or being the best person in the position to provide food, clothing, shelter, safety, and security, and all the things that African people need to make those things a reality. Your job is to help African people. It's not to live off the backs of African people. It's not to acquire wealth for yourself and your family or for African people. That's what African leadership is about. And again, this is why I say the best of African tradition. It's like the wheat. We don't eat all the wheat. We get rid of the chaff. The chaff in this case would be those negative ways of African people, those negative ways that individuals have, those elements of bad character and greed and those things. We have to eliminate that chaff from the wheat. So the wheat is the rich African culture, the rich African values, interests, and principles of our people. If we could take the best of all of that and move forwards, then African people will succeed. But if we keep things like classism, if we keep things like dash as part of our thing, then African people would not succeed. But I brought that up to you earlier, though, to say this, because a lot of times we look at ourselves more harshly, more critically than we look at all human beings have this problem with corruption and greed, and it's not something that's usual to the African, but as Africans, yes, we have to take responsibility and accountability and examine our own issues and be critical of those and resolve those issues. But I want us to not also don't beat ourselves up as if we're doing something that the rest of the human family isn't doing. So that's
Brother
why I
Charles,
brought that up to you. But I definitely understand your point, and you're right. Us as Africans, we have to move those things. We have to stop those things, eliminate those things in our culture, because other folks are in a better position where they are right now than we are. So we definitely cannot afford that. So I understand what you were saying, and I agree with you.
we want to take, so I think we want to take in some calls. If you want to call, I just send in the WhatsApp number is +1 502 277 2094. I think people want to call and ask you direct questions, but also to contribute on the show. But not just only that, if you cannot access the WhatsApp, please, you can drop your question in the chat and Brother Charles will be able. I really extended this conversation because the topic and the interaction and the engagements are getting really high, and Africans are actually beginning, or we in the family here think there are some things we need to do. I cannot be wrong by justifying the fact that no, they also do it, so it's okay. No, I don't
No,
care
no,
what
no, I'm definitely
every
not
other
saying that.
people does. We need to, I don't care what every other people do. I think the African people have got enough to just even not mind what every other person is doing and becomes a new normal. We know what is wrong. We know what has kept us to what we are today. And so I would just not say I take it lightly because okay, they're also doing somewhere else. So I should not kill myself. No, kill yourself because it's a wrong thing to do. It's a
Right.
wrong
I
thing to
agree.
do. We should never do that. I mean, the mothers, I'm just having the mother mind and the mother spirit of discipline to say no, because AA is doing, I will not be comfortable because you're doing that. And I think these are the kind of debates or conversations that we're really going to get into here on Pan African Daily. These straight talks of actually saying what we do. And like I said, when the more conscious we are, I'm telling you, the reason why we're still comfortable as the diaspora or conscious community is because we're still not many. Let us raise many. We're going to go to war against ourselves. Because why we keep still tolerating this leadership and these government systems is because a few conscious people are still not. The more spiritually and embarked we were, and we are getting there slowly and quickly, as you would see. You see the Gen Zs and every other thing in Kenya, and every day the young people, because of the consciousness, the more conscious they become, the more they wake up and begin to defend, resist this kind of very bad leadership that we're having on the continent. So we need to teach a lot of consciousness so that people can gain back their normal senses. And honestly, the people we need to fight is ourselves. All right. I think you have your first call coming in. Thank you very much for calling. And thank you, Kofi, for saying we have to take in calls. So, brother, go on. Everyone is hearing. Brother Charles is listening to you.
Okay. Evening, Dr. Susan Tata.
Thank you.
And good evening. Good afternoon. I know the man's in America. But, good afternoon to Brother Charles. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. Well, my first question is to Brother Charles. What does he think about this new wave? Well, I wouldn't even say a wave, but just this new agenda that they've got in America, with a lot of these the African Americans that are jumping on this foundational black foundational African American thing where they're trying to separate themselves from Africa and just basically say that like we're foundational Black Americans. Because I feel like if that's the route that we're going, I'm not saying you per se, but just other people, the younger generation in America. How do you feel about it? Because I mean, I feel like it's just kind of like they're going in circles with like the identity crisis. Because I mean, even though I can understand where they're coming from, because obviously they built America, the history and everything else like that, but I feel like Africa's liberation is way bigger than just America, if you get what I'm saying. Like, if Africa's liberated, they'll be respected in America. Black people will be respected, all around the world. So, I mean, I just wanted to ask him how he feels about this foundational Black American thing where they're trying to push this agenda to separate themselves from Africa and just stick amongst themselves.
Yeah, so he's talking about well, there are two streams that are essentially the same. There is the first group was ADOS, which I hate the name. It's an acronym for American Descendants of Slaves. Our ancestors were not slaves; they were enslaved, first of all. But Yvette Carnell and this guy, I forgot his tone, something or other. Yvette Carnell was a tool of the conservative Republicans, and the brother Tone, I'm not sure where he comes from. And then there was later on created by Tariq Nasheed, Foundational Black Americans, which has a nicer sound to it, but it's essentially the same group. Now, these are proponents of various things. Some people among them say that we are the first, we are the indigenous people of America, and some people, they go as far as to say that we are not brought from Africa. We are the indigenous people of America. Some others amongst them say that those of us, they acknowledge that the African descendant part, but they say that because of our unique history in being enslaved and building America, that we have a special, when it comes to issues like reparations and such, we have a special debt that is owed to us that is unique from folks from the Caribbean or folks from the Africa that may have come in later generations. I find with both of these things that they're a distraction. I find that both a lack of understanding of our true history. For instance, when we talk about a place like Florida, for instance, Florida was a former colony. It was not part of the 13 colonies, but it was part of it was a Spanish colony. And at one point, just as there was the Underground Railroad towards the north in Philadelphia / Pennsylvania, and then further on past Canada, there was also a Underground Railroad that pointed south, and the Spanish offered freedom in their space to any Africans. I guess this was part of the geopolitics of Spain and Britain and France at the time. They offered freedom and protection to those from the Eastern Court. Remember, all 13 of the 13 original colonies were on the Eastern seaboard. So Africans escaped up north towards freedom, but they also escaped down south towards freedom. And when they got to Florida, of course, there were Africans that the Spanish had brought, but there was also, guess, and that continued after America was founded. There were people from the Bahamas that regularly traveled back and forth to Florida, just like how you have migrant workers today. There was people from the Bahamas that were migrant workers, and people from other Caribbean places that were migrant workers. There was also, when we look at the case of folks like Aluda Equiano, on the Eastern Seaboard, you have these port places like Boston, New York City, Charleston, New Orleans, going down the seaboard. Now there were Africans that worked. You know, we look at the ships and the merchant marine, etc. There were Africans on those ships that went from port town to port town, and they went down into the Caribbean and to South America. And we all know what they say about sailors. Sailors have a woman in every port. So what makes us think that those Africans that was interacting in these different ports didn't create families of Africans, you know, them being from up here and the Africans down there that they connected with? We have all these different connections in our history of Africans from the continent and Africans from the Caribbean and South America interacting and fighting for freedom with people that will be called FBA and ADOS today, or simply Black Americans or African Americans. We have a long history of interactions during the Civil Rights Movement and before the Civil Rights Movement. Henry Sylvester Williams, Henry Highland Garnett, Kwame Ture, aka Stokely Carmichael, Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Amy Jakes Garvey, Amy Ashwood Garvey, Mexico. There were Africans. Mexico was another place when Mexico got its freedom from the Spanish that offered freedom to any African, just like at the period that Haiti in 1804, when Haiti offered freedom to any Africans that were enslaved that could make it to the shores of Haiti. Mexico did the exact same thing. In fact, the Mexican first vice president who became the second president was an African or of African descent, and they offered freedom to Africans. So there's this constant interaction between African peoples in different nations, different states, that is overlooked by those who claim to be FBA and ADOS. Furthermore, if we want to just stick with the FBA and ADOS, we have to look at some of the claims that the Africans, the people that we're calling Africans, are really the indigenous people of America. Well, where did the indigenous people of America come from? They came over when Africans left the African continent, however how many hundreds of thousands or a million years ago, when they left the African continent and peopled the earth. Then there were Africans that came again when Kemet was a major figure in world affairs. They traveled from Kemet to do trade here in the Americas. Then we have another influx under the time of Mansa Musa, where they say his brother and Ivan Van Sertima talks about this in his books. The brother journeyed to the Americas. And we know that there are natural currents that will take you directly from the African continent to the Americas. So there was trade going on for 1,000 years before Spain and Portugal started the European imperial project that later came with Dutch and the Germans and the British and Portuguese and so forth and so on. This is our story. The people here, whether it's the indigenous people or the people that came through the enslavement process, which was, it's not the last process because there's also another influx that comes over later on in like the 70s and 80s. There is a constant influx and interaction between Africans with this continent. The people that are here, the indigenous people before the Asiatic strain that we know of as Indians came here, we were here. We are descendants of Africans, no matter how you look at it. Now, the thing with ADOS and FBA is that they feel right and rightly so in some degree that there is some how would I say, there was some disrespect from Africans that have come later, like the 70s and 80s. Well, what we need to understand is that to some degree, our people are being used as tools against each other, or were being used as tools against each other. Just like how they did when they first started the slave trade and they used one ethnic group against the other. Africans that were here, again, that would be the African Americans and the Caribbean Americans that were here during the civil rights era, and Africans from the continent that were here, all fought for civil rights for our people. In the civil rights struggle, and Malcolm, the human rights struggle of our people. Out of those things came affirmative action and some other policies that opened up access to jobs and education and so forth. Now, and so instead, what white people did is instead of putting African Americans that are quote unquote African Americans, who are actually a mix, as I said, people that have several generations here, Caribbean Americans and Africans from the continent that have been here for a long time. Instead of using those people that were deeply invested in the civil rights, human rights movement, that were engaged in the struggle, they allowed in folks that had no connection to the struggle during the 50s and 60s to come into these and take over the slots that were fought for by the Africans that were here during that time. And so those people having no connection to that history, having not been told of the connection between African people. I mean, it's just like Africans here had a hard time at first accepting Africans from the Caribbean. They call them they came over on the banana boat and all these disparaging remarks. So they miseducate African people to use us against each other and don't tell us the mutual history of struggle that is connects us. Don't tell us how beautiful we are as African people. So yes, of course, Africans in Americas and Africans from the Caribbean are going to have problems with each other. Africans from the Caribbean, Africans from the continent are going to have problems with each other, and Africans from the continent, African America, so-called African Americans, are going to have problems with each other because they teach us to hate ourselves. They teach us to hate our African root. And so the Africans, again, not knowing the recent Africans from the 70s and 80s, not knowing that deep history of struggle and how these positions opened up for them to be able to take participation in them, they're being used as tools to keep the Africans that have been here and been fighting out of those positions, out of being able to succeed, out of being able to acquire the economic, political, and cultural wealth that they fought for. and so there's some resentment on the part of those who claim FBA and ADOS. But another aspect of that is also on now today when we talk about reparations, there are unique cases that need to be filed, and it's unique for various reasons. Your geolocation, your particular families, the injustice done to your particular families, but then there's also the group dynamic. There were cases that the African on the continent could file that the African American can't file. There are cases that the Caribbean African can file that the African American can't file. And there's cases where the African American can file that neither of the other two can file. And I'm talking about cases on multiple levels. I'm talking about against the federal government. I'm talking about against state governments. I'm talking about against city governments, especially sitting here in New York City, the heart of financial capital that was involved in cases that was involved in slavery over the world because of the financial aspect. So there are cases, for instance, that Jamaica maybe could file against New York City. There are cases that the New York City people with Africans with a long history in New York City could file against New York City. There are cases that the African and English colonies could file against New York City. So it's complicated, but the main thing that we have to remember is that we all are Africans, and that we have to stop this. While yes, there are some case-wise, reparations-wise, and interaction-wise, there's some differences that we have to deal with. We have to realize that we are all Africans, that we have the same values, the same interests, and the same principles that will lead us to success. And when we begin to separate and infight, we are helping the white man do what he wants to do and be successful. We have to realize that our strength is in unity, our strength is in supporting each other, and our strength is in healing the rifts between us. Sister Tata.
I think I want to say something to what the brother said, because you see, we're not going to be we're not going to connect all of us. If you look at this story of Mama Harriet Tubman, all those that refuse to be liberated, and today you see there's a saying that I don't want to be friended, or I don't want to get connected to those Mama Harriet would have left behind. You see,
But
the
see here, Mama Harriet did not leave anybody behind. She
yes,
made
but
them,
those
she
who
pulled out
refuse,
her gun and she said, Negro, you are coming whether you want to or not. And that's the spirit that we have. That's the spirit that we have to move with. Negro, you may not like it. You want to stay, you might want to stay in this cracker's house, but you have to get out the cracker's house. And you will see that it's for your own good. But right now you're gonna be upset. Just like Mama made us take that blackstrap molasses or that cola nut or whatever it was, and we didn't like it at the time, but when we started feeling better, we appreciated Mama. That's the spirit we have to move with.
of course. But remember, if he would have left those that he could to just chase the one, like the Bible is saying, no, leave the 99 and then come and look after. He had to take the 99 in sacrifice of the one she has to. I think in this case, if we would have to stick to say we must take everybody, we have to understand that even in Europe, if you look at the way we react here, it's obvious that they are Africans that would die for Europeans than for Africans.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody. And I think that's where the secret science of humanity comes from. Because all these races that we're talking about are actually origins from Africa. But if you hate your mother, you're going to starve. And so, but a lot of those, even in black skin or whatever, that would follow that, you'll be cut off from that. So I love what the comment that one of the commentaries in the chat that said, We don't need to go with everybody. We need to liberate and then hold back the others. But if we wait to say all of us have to gain the consciousness that all of us, I don't think we would ever come to that point. Yes, we want to save everybody, but at some point we would have to leave some behind. Professor Baina said something.
Well,
I'm sorry, Professor Baina said something here on the show about the Battle of Adwa. And she said there were mothers that actually took their children and put it as a gunpowder to fight for the liberation of the others. Like literally took their children and put it like a gunpowder. You understand? So it is very obvious we're never going to take every one of us along. There are some that will have to leave behind and go. And some of these are already showing us. Are we going to sit and begin to say, no, we have to? We know Africans, even in Germany today, they don't greet you as a Black man. They don't feel identified, like, I'm not saying origins. Remember, I'm talking migrants from the continent that grew up in the continent, not those that were naturalized here, or because we don't have that indigenous. But if you can already begin to understand that the work that we have is too much, the role of the mother mind, how do we start raising and teaching these things back now? So it's not even strange to say they are colonies or people that are already, they do it every day to us. You greet your children, they don't know you again. Children that came from motherland. I'm not saying children that were born here. And so teaching, you said it from day one when you started the show. We have so much work to do. And most of our work we have to go into being teachers. Remember how we were programmed. That's exactly how we have to deprogram. But all of us, we were too focused on the distraction. Now, the conscious community has to go into teaching. Teach one, teach the other. Like me, I already know that we're already, like from our organization and Pan-African Delay, we're offering counseling for families to bring families together, to connect African families together through marriages, whether they are single or not single or are young people, because that is the role of the mother. That is the role of the mother mind. And we must go back to the role of the mother mind as a gatherer of the community. And you can already understand why they came and they said, even the system of saying, oh, women can do everything. Women can build roads. Women can be this. Who is going to build the community? And every day we keep making these mistakes, going forth and back. No, the role of the African community and social science was clearly defined. Who is responsible for what and who is responsible for what? But because the mother is always as flexible, could go ahead to do other things, but doesn't mean that was hers. So until we start defining these roles again, the mother, the women, for us to take back our position and say, yes, I'm a housewife. I am here to build the community and raise the children. Because the community makes us to be distracted. No, I need to work 8 hours. I need to take care of the children. And then I need to even provide a 50-50 system. Where did we inherit all that from? It's not going to work. If the African woman that keeps saying, or they keep preaching, no, women have to be entrepreneurs and be empowered and be this, they already were empowered. Do you think it's easy tax raising the generation? Like our mothers did, and they had 8, 10, 15, and the whole village and community to take care of. Not everybody must be a CEO. Not everybody must actually be a woman that has to be. The mother role is missing. The mother role is missing. Today we start celebrating, oh, women are presidents or this and this. Women always were president from the background. It's not today. And so we take all these things because somebody else, we're working on other agendas and we begin to fuel it. Look at how many marriages are breaking every day from our communities and we celebrate them. And we take it, it becomes a normal thing. No, it has to. We have to start back from how we were. and be okay to just be a housewife raising children, because that's too much work. At one point in Germany, German women had put on the law that they have to start paying mothers that are keeping children at home, because it's a whole-time job. It's a
Yes.
full-time,
Yes.
right? So, but when we begin to come and misunderstand this thing, no, I have to be this because my man also has to stay at home, and I bust out and do the change of role. These are all things when we speak here, they will think that we're going gaga or we are missing somewhere. Everybody has to stick on their lane. I'm a mother, I'm a woman, and I'm very comfortable being a housewife, taking care, because it's too much work to take care of the husband, take care of the household. He goes out, he has to do heavy work. He comes back, he needs a home. What are we doing? So all these teachings, we need to start doing it. We must. There's just no way. And we have run, in as much as we keep blaming the patriarchy system, we are even more into it. The role of the mother is missing. And all this politics of no, the women they have to be empowered is just a wrong positioning. It's wrong programming of the mind. And most of our sisters and most of us women, we've enjoyed that privilege of being to be the boss lady or whatever it means to you. We need to stop it. We need to go back to understanding who we are and our position. That's why our economy, our continent is breaking every day, because the role of the woman, and the woman has felt himself as a victim, has felt victimized. No, it always has to be about honor. It's already, we have to normalize being that way, of being the African woman that our mothers were. And there's nothing wrong with it.
No, I agree. I agree. I was trying to find a picture of my. We look. We not only have to deal with what it means to be a woman, but also what it means to be a man. I was looking for this picture of Malcolm X where he has the chalkboard. In order, he has man equals husband, man equals father, and some other things. We of course the Muslim girls training, the sisters had their own um, similar teaching. That's part of that African culture, values, interests, and principles. Our culture, when we go through from young people, we see the examples in our family, and then when we go through the puberty rites, we're taught what our responsibilities as a man are to our wife, to our children, to our community, how to engage with our wives, how to handle problems, how what we're going to be responsible for in terms of our families and so forth. And the same with women. Uh, Honestly, I feel like women are living up more to their duties right now than the brothers are. Not that there aren't brothers, there's plenty of good brothers. I'm surrounded by many good brothers who are being good husbands and good fathers. Uh, a lot of times they fall short in terms of their community responsibility. And that's one thing we definitely have to teach for men and women, that you have a responsibility, not just to yourself and to your family, but to the community, the well-being of the community. And this is something for men and women. The nurturing role for that women do in the house is unreplaceable, without question. That And we see the difference when a child is nurtured versus when they're not nurtured. I see young Africans from the continent, that I'm talking about still as youngsters, and how they interact. They're unafraid, they're bold, they're quick-witted. And then I see Africans that are in the diaspora that are not nurtured. They don't know how to manage stress. They can't interact with people on the social level. They're scared of their actual and virtual shadow. Uh, they don't get along well with other people. They fight, and you see the difference when there's somebody at home nurturing a child, and the child's cognitive and physical abilities also develop quicker when they are nurtured. So the role of a mother is unreplaceable in the family, but also the role of the father. And we have these stereotypical characteristic roles of what it means to be a man. We need to re-examine all of these things
Brother
and
Charles,
take the
let,
best.
let me interrupt on that. Let me interrupt on that. Brother Parker just said something, and I want see it starts from the mother. Look at the role of the queen mothers. Now, who raises both the male and the daughter? It's the mother. Even when we think like we were thinking, even in some principles that we keep thinking that, oh no, we have to, the men have to take their own role. The men don't have a role. They will not even understand the role because the role comes from the home, from the family. We know the man is the gatherer who went out, and the mother is the natural. So the idea is, if we women, if me, for instance, and that's what I do, and that's what I practice, and that's what I struggle that we should do. If I'm raising to me, you just saw, and I raised to me, knowing that to me is going to be somebody's father, to me is going to be somebody's husband, I will raise him differently. Do you understand what I'm saying? If we raise our children with the fact that we know that these children are going to be somebody's husband or somebody's fathers, we will raise them differently. It has never
I
done
agree.
on us that we think that we're raising children that would play that role. It has always done on us that I raise my son, he's my son. And that's why we begin to get that. It always that problem when the children go out now. If my son gets married, I get problems with my daughter-in-law. Why? If my son
Okay.
is a father of something, then I have a problem. Why? Because I did not raise him to be the son of somebody's. And that's why we always come and say, I'm your mother. I'm your mother. Of course, the son knows you're the mother. But the second mother is the wife. The second mother is the wife. When we started Pan-African Daily, there were a group of teachers from the US who had been writing and said, we need the mothers with a conscious mind to teach us how to even love our women, to teach us how to lead a home. Because exactly of what you're saying, the too much toxics these children have grown in, we should not underestimate that. We should not just look at the fact that they are men and we think that they're already ripe enough. The community says 18, you have to leave
No,
at whatever
no,
time. Because
no.
everything has to be a product of economy and something else. Has nothing to really do if this man is groomed to be a man that could do that before he gets to that age. Now, even with all those morals, why do these relationships? You can see it everywhere. Now it's even getting crazy. And if we are not looking for these solutions, to just go back into our mother mind to say something is that we're not doing right, we have to do it differently. It will not change.
Right.
Come back to
You're
us.
right. You're right. That's
Family, number one, family. Family is the number one for every other thing that would happen. Because if I raise you, you become a president or you become a leader, those values go along with it. Same like the daughter. You get married and you know that you are a mother of the nation, you will react differently. So we need to go back to start doing those jobs that we mothers have left because like we said, the raising starts from the mother, from the son to the daughter, and it's the same thing.
that's why you're our queen, sister. That's why you're our queen. You
Oh,
provided me some because as you said that, I was thinking my mother, when she raised me, there was a lot of love, but she raised me to be able to take care of myself. She did not teach me that one day you're going to be somebody's husband and somebody's father, and therefore you need to prepare for that. There was a lot of love. There was a lot of love of blackness, but there wasn't that understanding. So you're right. You're right. As you said it, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, you got. I cannot disagree. But that being said, we also need those men in the family, because even the mother could talk till she's blue about those things, but unless the young men see that example of a man doing exactly what Mama said, unless the young sisters see that example of a man being what her mother says she needs to be preparing herself for, there's going to be problems. So, but you're absolutely right. And I appreciate what you just said, because it gave me a new understanding, a different understanding.
No, because you have to everything can be done by design, but when we purposefully are conscious
Mhm.
on that a responsibility, because look at the way we deal with challenges in marriages, and from an
Mhm.
African conscious mind. When we were growing up, even when the daughter would come back, the mother-in-law considers her daughter married to the son-in-law as two brothers and sisters that are married. And that's why when there was a problem in the family, the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, they could sit and they nurture the children, because it was always about, this is my daughter. Even if she's my daughter-in-law, she's my daughter, because she's the second mother of my son. You understand? So there are a lot of responsibility and a lot of downloads that we're being given, and we need to take that to begin to heal, because until we go to that system, we will not heal. Healing comes from truth. Healing comes from the freedom we're looking for. Healing comes from the fact that I should let go of my ego and start thinking that because I have a son, that son has to be only for me forever. And if I have a
Right,
daughter-in-law, she has to be as a servant for me in the house, because my
right,
son, I'm the one that carried my son. No, it's different. It's a second mother to your son, because the same things now you're doing with is recreating me and the generation or us that I could not be able to do with my son. Until we start getting these responsibilities and start teaching it among ourselves, I think the healing will take time.
right.
So,
So
brother,
somebody said, we know our problems. It's time for us to bring more solutions. What she just said was a solution, brother John Africa. That's not a complaint. It's a solution. We have to re-engage the process of raising our children, and not and your sister, you, as you were saying that, I'm thinking of, the movies, the actuality. A lot of times the wives have problems with the husband, not because of anything necessarily between them, but because the relationship between the husband and the mother is dysfunctional. The mother is not preparing a space for her son to take in that second wife, of that wife, or that, as you say, second mother into his life. She wants the child or to herself. It reminds me of something I've heard here. This is my child. Here in America, they say, that's my child. You don't tell my child what to do, whatever. That very short-sighted thinking is what needs to change in order for us to be successful. And it goes back to the African concept. And the African concept, there's no ownership of the child. The child is coming through you for a particular reason, whether it's to manifest a particular mission or to help whatever it is. The child is coming through you. The child does not belong to you. So again, that's returning to our the best practices of African values, interests, and principles.
not
Uh,
only, not even another topic that we mothers have to handle, and that topic was given to us, and we know it is polygamy.
mhm,
We have to understand these principles and understand. I always say the polygamy was a foundation of the women. Always from the women, never had been for the men. But because when we have our social science of living, people always take it and then put something else behind it. We have to go back to that. We are growing and outnumbering ourselves. It never was a problem. It never was about fighting each other or using this for another. These are values that are given to the African mother, and we need to start teaching ourselves and normalize everything. That it's okay.
right.
If you look at the theory of polygamy, it was the senior woman that always went and looked for the co-wives.
Right.
And
Right.
no matter how much, particularly because they were wealthy in the villages. They had land, too much farmland, and the farmers have money, and they had to preserve their wealth. And just a lot of things, because of menopausal things, because of wealth building, because of building the community, because of having large families, which to an African concept is money, is your wealth and the riches. So I think everything we do, once we do it professionally, and we do it with good intent to multiply. Remember, we are losing a lot of children in all these wars on the continent, even though they keep even giving figures and saying, oh, the population is outperforming. It's not even as much as it's supposed to be, because look at the wars we are having on the continent and how many children or women that we're losing every day.
Mm-hmm. No,
I
I
think
agree.
we really need to
I
go back.
agree. And you know, there's an African proverb that you well know. It takes a village to raise a child, and it doesn't take of just a village. It takes the whole village to raise a child. So that idea is what leads polygamy. It's for the success of the individual family, but it's also for the success of the whole village. It's for the protection of African women. It enables African women to work together. But when you have the mindset of, again, this whole European subjective idea of this is mine. This man is mine. I cannot share him with this woman is mine. You start dating somebody, that's my boyfriend. That's my girlfriend. You go on one date with a person, all of a sudden they're your property. There's not, I'm sharing my energy. I'm building with this person. And it the whole thing needs to be reassessed and re rooted back to where it emanated. In order for our children to be successful, they need a whole community around them and supporting them. And when you have two wives, for instance, that's not two people that can share the load with the husband of nurturing these children. That means if one has to go do something, the other one can stay and watch the children. And when that one is finished and they have to go do something, that means they could share the wash together. That means they could share the kitchen chores together. That means that they could share managing the husband, because husbands could be a handful together, and vice versa, and they could work out disagreements together. The whole idea of this subjective property thing needs to be we need to really push that out of our psyche. There was something else that I was thinking of when you said, but it'll return to me. But
It's okay. I think
but
we've actually really covered this psychology, and because everything that we spoke about here today has to do with growth. Like you said, when we studied the 7 principles of Kwanzaa, it was very clear and on what is needed to be done. And this year, we just know that the power from the universe, from the creator, is giving us this mindset of balance. But the balance is we're still looking at politically. When we say the female and the masculine, and we talk always about the patriarchy on the continent, the issue is we are many, women are many, mothers are many, girls are many. There's absolute no way that patriarchy can exist and reign on the continent. But we have just, in another share, I'm just being provocative here, not step up that game of taking this responsibility. Say, what are we doing cleverly and intentionally? So I think we're going to really be doing webinars of teaching about family. I mean, this is for me key, what I'm going to be doing. We're going to be doing paid webinars, subscription webinars to teach, because the issue is also giving away for free. People don't take it seriously. People think it's as easy. Like I said, I had to visit more than 5 families, everyone being broken up at the same time. It is not a coincidence, like my sister Cheryl is saying, it is by design. And if we
oh
all are focused on doing
yes, yes,
something,
yes.
who is
No,
going to be there for the community? It's a lot. It's not the
yes,
fault
sister.
of the brother, it's not the fault of the sister. Something is just not adding up. And we need to go back to the system to teach.
So
And here,
I remember now what I wanted to say. In terms of sisters, you know, with everything you said, I have begun to realize a few years ago that the importance of sisters. Sisters are not only the nurturers of our family, sisters are also the keepers of our culture. Brother Reggie Mabry, my big brother in the Sons of Africa, took folks on a tour a few years ago of the Metropolitan Museum of Art's Kemet wing, and he began to point out the different netures, and the female netures all end with a T. And in that, when he pointed out that the high principles of the culture, of the Kemetic culture, uh, were the feminine principles, Ma'at, Het Haru, Aset, and so forth. The women maintain the culture. You know, here in America, from the 60s, 70s, I say late 60s into the 70s, they were talking about this assault on the black male. To me, that wasn't the main attack. The main attack was the assault on the black family, and particularly the black woman, because white folks have understood that the black woman is the keeper of our culture. Did we know that this is why the land is matrilineal in Africa? Women keep the culture and maintain the society. And when you attack the psychology, when you attack the physical being of black women, when you attack the economic undergirder of black women, then you destroy the black family. So if you kill a black man, you just kill a black man, and then his family is still live, but they're weaker because he may not be able to defend him. But when you attack the black woman psychologically, spiritually, physically, then you destroy the whole family. When you attack the black woman, you destroy the whole family. Who is going to be there to nurture the children? Who is going to be there to inculcate African values, interests, and principles? Who is going to be there to keep the household if you destroy the black woman? If you have her on crack, if you have her on alcohol, if you have her in the streets enjoying a hot girl summer, who is there to protect African youth and teach them the right way? This is where the real attack is. Black men, they want to emasculate us and keep us because they understand the warrior aspect. But when you want to destroy the family, you don't go for the black man. You go for the black woman because you destroy all the generations. If you destroy her, then you also destroy the little black girl that's going to bring forth the generations after mommy is gone.
It is it is our way forward, and I think I want to thank everyone. Sister Sherry, thank you. I'm thanking you that you joined, and everyone that has been here. Our mothers, they just did it, because sometimes when we rely on, I know that in the diaspora we need an orientation, but a village girl like me, we just knew it, because even we were already mothers when we were kids. You understand? We were already mothers when we were kids.
Mhm.
Like literally, you're the one, not babysitting. It's not babysitting. We were not babysitting our siblings. We were literally being mothers for them. Even at a tender age, you already knew how you could wash the napkins. How, if mother is not or gone to the farm, you have to cook food and make sure that you were still a child, but you were already in that role. We were already in the role of just doing some natural things, and because it's an instinct from a girl child to do it. And you see, those are some of the things when you would do here, they would say, oh no, you're doing child labor for the child, or or always doing this. When is the girl child going to learn these values, how to put a baby on his lap and actually massage this baby? Because that's where the love starts from. The moment we start separating, I mean, like I slept with my mother, all of us and my siblings, up to when even up to now, when I go back home, we still sleep on the same bed together, because that's how we grew up. It's the same thing the way I raise my boys. And even when they're big like this, the times they see jump in the room and on the bed, and because that bond is not taught, it's nurtured in the beginning. Is there the smell, like I was telling one of the we our parents, they used to chew food and give it to us like babies, and we ate it. And here it is, it's nasty, is this and this and this. But you ask yourself, why do they always take our slime when they want to make a test about some DNAs and something? So there are a lot of things we need to unlearn. I mean, not even unlearn, keep your learning what you've learned, but you need to learn new things. And we have to go back to the drawing board to teach. And to teach takes,
Not,
yeah, takes the consciousness. We have to, at least some people have to start. We have to start it, and we're starting it on the Pan African Daily TV. I mean, I want really to treat the indigenous marriage and relationship system, the indigenous way. Why is when we broke up or something happened, it is always running to point finger at the other one. It is just something. This it's a very terrible spirit you can never even understand. And like my sister Sherry said, they keep our money away and make us vulnerable. Is that very simple? But we know the spirit of Mother Africa or the spirit of the lioness. No, you cannot. That's why they will not even if the takers will still fight to get our men and our children. So it is time to fight for what belongs to us, but in a very just go back to the drawing board. We're not going to take everything with us, but we need to save this relationship. We need to save and even build the next one. In the village, nobody will get married to your daughter if the parents were separated. No family will get married to your son if you were separated. But here, it's even the opposite. The more you're separated, the more it even becomes like, like at what point should these things continue to happen and to be there? So it's a new beginning. We need to go back to learn. And the last thing I want to make it clear, there is a husband for every woman in the village. I'm always taking it from the village. And there is a wife for every man in the village. This singlehood thing doesn't exist in the African nest. Doesn't matter what at what age or at what time, or there's no time limit to say, no, I'm already getting to my this now. How can I do? No, it is recreation, family values, how they sustainable are. There's always for each person. Okay. And we need to talk about that. People need to know that a lot of us have been so cloned to understand that even to just talk about love or to share your feelings or to get a husband or to get a wife, intercontinental marriages, this is what we have to promote because there's nobody is single, it should not be. Where is the next generation going to come from? Where are these families and these values? We keep going left and going. There's no, at some point, we would have to. All right. So I thank you very much, brother. Thank you for everyone that has listened. One last thing I want to say is like the show. We always say it every day. It's very important. It's not just only liking the show, but please, we have created a WhatsApp channel. Um, and I will tell you, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on infiltration. There's a lot just going on in the background. We are not even observing the spaces that we are functioning in and what they do to us. So
Sister Tata,
yes,
sister, I see our sister Cheryl is very active. I don't think we did. We only took the one question. Are there any sisters that want to question or ask a comment? Because I just want to keep it.
I'm not closing. I'm not closing. I just wanted to make this point that I've shared the Pan African Daily TV WhatsApp channel. Please, everybody should click join because there are some key informations that we're not going to be sharing live. There are a lot of informations like our studies and every other thing we are not going to be sharing it here. I already told us, so just join us on that channel. It is not a WhatsApp group, it's a WhatsApp channel, and I'm going to be sharing it on all our platforms because a lot we would have to pick it offline. So, Sister Cheryl, is there a question or any other person has a question? We can bring it up here. Or if you also see a question in the chat, Brother Charles, you can also pick it up and respond to it. I mean, we're already doing 3 hours show today, so it's a lot of learning. We never knew about time in Kemet or in the village. Is as long as everybody feels, wait, Africans always have time. We always. So if there's any question coming up, please make sure. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
The sister is saying, yes, I was an auntie at a very young age. And we knew how to bathe the child, clothe the child, feed the child. So please.
I'm trying to find the I got a bunch of different windows open. I'm trying to find the window that I had us on. There it is.
Okay.
No, that's not it. Um,
Anybody
I
that
had it.
wants to follow or get very important information from us or updates or some whispers, please join the WhatsApp channel. Join the WhatsApp channel. I just send the link. We're going to be sharing it. Share it to one another too. Okay. Because 2025, as we plan ahead, the planners are planning even more deeper than us. And we need to be so be on time and on board and certain things that we do, please. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I see Sister Cheryl said a couple of things. She said that sisters are not given or I'm not sure if she meant being given mother wit or sharing mother wit, because you have to be given it first in order to share it. Now, I'm not sure that a lot of our sisters today have received that mother wit that they need in order to share it. She also, there was a comment she made. I'm trying to find it. Uh, she made a comment about, in order, you said that the one is receiving money. In order to receive money, they had to kick the men out. But oh, here it is. We need to take our rights back as parents and not let the powers that shouldn't be tell us how to rear our black babies. And here in America, that is definitely a big issue. Uh, I've seen in recent years people, vegans that want to raise their child vegan, have their children taken away on false charges of child abuse. Parents that don't want their children exposed to the LGBTQ mess in school, being taken, having their children taken away, um, or now, as I say that, I don't know if you know, Susan, I'm trained as a sexual health and reproductive trainer from my time that I was at Harlem Hospital. And when we had programs that went into the schools, we dealt with bullying and resisting peer pressure to skip school, do alcohol, drugs, and engage in negative behaviors. But also, we had a component that dealt with teaching the children about sexually transmitted infections and resisting peer pressure to engage in relationships, just having a relationship before you're ready, or actual the physical aspect of it. And we, at that time, now this is like 2012 to 2014, 15, we could not teach anything about sexual health and STIs to children under the seventh grade. At the fifth and sixth grade, the child, we had to talk to them more about like resisting peer pressure for alcohol, to cut school, cheat on homework and testing, whatever. We could not teach. We could not teach that. But what's happening now is that they are exposing our children in these schools to material that is beyond their level of cognition to address, and normalizing behaviors uh, uh, that parents should be talking to their children about. Contradictions that parents should be talking to the children about, and they have not, like when we had programs, the parents, we had to send notifications to the parents and let them know that we'll be in the school teaching these things, and the parent had to sign off for it, or sign to say that they did not want their children, uh, that their children to be involved in those classes, and their children would be put in another classroom while that class was going on. But nowadays, we have in our schools materials exposing children to information that they cannot cognitively process at that age without parental consent. It's in the library. It's in the library, library in the school, and it's in the library here in New York. They have different levels based on your reading, your ability to read and comprehend. So at the back of each classroom, there's a little rack that has book for like those at level A, B, C, D, whatever it is up to. And if you finish your classwork in time, the teacher will allow you to go in the back and pull a book from your reading level comprehension. In those shelves are books about this one has two mommies, this one has two daddies, and other things, normalizing information, exposure to information to children that the children cannot, as I said, cognitively grasp. And this is what's going on. And then when parents are rebelling against their children coming home, all of a sudden saying, Johnny is saying, I want to wear a dress or a skirt, or their daughter wanted to dress like what we normally would perceive as dressing like a boy, then they're going after the parents and attacking the parents for saying that this is not appropriate for you and having a discussion why. And that recently in New York, and I was against it, they had a proposition that they were saying that it was normalizing protections for abortion, but it was also normalizing, quote unquote, normalizing protections that allow youth to be seen as adults, to have legal rights as adults. Excuse me for stuttering. So what this means now is that before, where you might have to have a child, an adult accompany a child that was up to 14, 15, 16 years old, uh, to get treatment from a doctor, or to go to court. There had to be the guardian or some guy, to kind of receiver to operate for the child. Now in New York, I could see coming that children can go to the doctors and interact with doctors and make decisions on their health without the input and protection of a parent. This is where we're going in here in America. They're trying to uh, uh, take the ability of parents to protect and guide their children and raise them the way that they want to, away from parents. So, to the sister's point, parents have to begin to fight, or else fight for to protect their children, or else we're here in America at least, and even on the African continent, because I know they're doing stuff on the African continent. They have these Bill Gates and others have these. For instance, they have what's the tetanus shot. They had a program in Africa giving tetanus shots. Now, for those of us that grew up here in the West, we know that you usually only get a tetanus shot if you cut yourself on a rusty piece of metal or step on a nail or something like that. It's at, now they have this program, or they had this program in Africa. Luckily, I forget which country is in, but they stopped it. They had this program giving tetanus shots in advance as part of the vaccination program, the overall vaccination program. But they found that this tetanus shot that they were giving in a particular country in Africa, and I'm gonna have to research it and get back to you which country it was. They found that in the tetanus shot, they were sterilizing African young ladies and women. So it wasn't just the tetanus shot; they were actually sterilizing them. So imagine you going to we're in a place now where African youth now could go to the doctor and get these shots and not have the protection of their family. It's like, wait a minute, what's in this shot exactly? What are the contraindications from this shot? What kind of ramifications are there in it? Can I take it? Can I take this shot and get it examined before you give it to my child? Imagine we're in a space now where African youth are exposed, are making adult decisions without information, without the cognitive processes to really look at who these people are that are supposed to be helping them. This is where we're going with these Europeans. They're trying to take away our ability to protect and defend our family.
Anyway, so yeah, we should round up. I mean, it's just 3 hours we've been live. That's okay. I hope we've learned a lot and we've shared a lot, and we're looking forward to just no. Sometimes there's just not fight about it. The fight is at home, and the parents have to understand. The moment you take the fight out of the home, you lose always, because we're not dealing here with normals, as we know. So that's also some of the things we have to understand, that The mother mind is a very clever one and knows how to protect, knows how to fight, knows how to keep. And until we begin to go back to learning how we do these things, love is the only thing. No matter how much you cannot, you really can just win the heart of your son, your daughter, because of the connection that you have. Blood is thicker than water. That's why everybody's
Amen.
saying,
I say,
and that's the fact. So we need to just give them the right teaching, the right love that we that they need. Every other thing will just fit in place. It will be difficult for you to convince them about certain things because the foundation is laid. Most of it, the foundations, we are distracted a lot, and we've already tasted of this situation that, oh, it's easy. They make it sound easy for us, and you think, just producing child is too stressful. Is too. They know we can help you. No, we can babysit, or we can keep here. No, 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 no. Any person that is doing that. We have to. So thank you so very much.
well,
It
thank
has
you,
been a
sister.
wonderful lecture. Thank you, brother.
I
Mhm.
appreciate you having me on your show and letting me ramble about it as I try to gather my thoughts to speak succinctly to folks. I hope that, first of all, I didn't. I just realized. Did I say Happy New Year to the family? Happy New Year, African family, wherever you are. To our sister Cheryl, to John Africa, to S.A. Smith, and to our beloved Toomey. Happy New Year. I pray that African folks will move forward in progress and love in this new year. And I thank you, my sister, for always having a loving space and that mother wit, as Sister Cheryl mentioned, to share with us and return us back to our center. So thank you for having me on, and I look forward to coming on maybe close again in the future as we talk about that letter petition that we're working on, the work that we're trying to do with the Alliance of Sahel States, and hopefully a trip upcoming soon. And there's another project that I just was started working on that I'll be excited to come on and share with you at some point.
No
Uh,
problem.
so blessed 2025 to the family. We are African people. We are going to do it. We are going to see an African renaissance. We are going to see the African woman in her rightful place in our struggle. And we are going to see African men stand up and be fathers and be husbands and be the leadership or partial leadership or co-leadership that the African family needs. Respect, 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 family. Madasi, Madasi, Madasi P.
It is happening. It is happening, brother. Thank you so very much. And all of you, please. You see, it's a 3 hours video. And I think one of the things we would have to slide this video into 1 hour. So please make sure that the lighter version is what we should be sharing. And I want to bring a feedback of the production we did with Professor Pielo Lumumba. It was fantastic. And tomorrow I will be sharing the feedback and how this we are performing in the last 10 days. We've performed very, very high here with the Kwanzaa week, every day being on the show. So why the reason why we did a break was just actually to leave us to digest everything that we thought during that week. And now we're back live again. And so you'll be getting our schedules, our programs, and each one teach each other. It's not just about guest speakers coming here. It's anybody that can teach, particularly the mothers, please, and the fathers. We have the he for she, anybody that can teach. We have to transform everything into teaching. After all, this is a Kemet a platform. This is a Kemet University, and so we need a lot to catch up with ourselves. So thank you very much for everyone. Thank you, Sister Tech. She's here. Preparations. Bye. Madasa, Miyaka, Berry, Asante, Sana. So thank you. Good night to everyone. Good night, Brother Charles. And we keep in touch, like you said, other series will be coming up with you as well. And Koboko says, thank you, everybody. Please, particularly you, the women from the village, come forward. Come forward. There's a lot of teaching to be done and sharing this space together. And like I said, we're really going to start a family show, not just family show, but we connecting ourselves. And there's no African man or woman that should stay without love or stay without a family. It never was in the plan of the Creator. So we have to make that happen. These days we can facilitate. These days we can connect. These days we can mediate. These days an African woman is or people. These days we have psychologists or all sort of that. I saw Sister Teresa Miller here. She's a very good in terms of bringing the Black communities and relationships and families together, or singles together, advise our children how they can connect and do this. Why are we so shy away from the basic things, and we begin to talk about some kind of political? Of course, politics is also important, but the politics of the home is the basic and the foundation.
It's the most important. It's the basic of all of it.
Thank
the
you.
basic of all of it.
Yes.
So I forgot also, if people want to get in touch with me, they can reach out on Instagram at bro. Where's my Insta? Bro _ Asukile, I think it is. Let me double check quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check for you. I want to give you misinformation. Yeah, BRO _ Asukile. On Instagram. You can also WhatsApp. You could call me at 718-269-9630. And of course, you can also get in touch with our beautiful sister Susan Ine Tata. And speaking of family stuff, she has appointed herself the head of the Fine Our Brother a Wife Committee. So if you want to submit an application,
yes. Thank you, brother, for bringing that up, because you were going to be the first candidate. I'm telling you, I've made upon myself, even when I met Brother Charles. You were there in New York, and we had promised that until this time, Brother Charles would have a wife. And up to now, we slept a little bit on it, and I'm on that topic again. Brother Charles, all of us here. So, but starting with your case, we'll have to bring that here. And yes, so
with my
you have to give your criteria, the kind of woman. We're going to do it. It's called Sweet Family African Love Show. So we are going to bring that family thing. You'll be the first candidate. Tell us what you need, it doesn't matter. And you will see your sister from the continent that will also say, oh, I'm here, brother. Every man was made for a woman, every woman for a man, in the African social science of creation. All these things of singlehood or something never was a part of it. It was just a plan. Okay. All right.
So I'm going to be the test case.
Yeah. Send your credentials. But looking at you, we already like the mothers. We are the one that always look for the wives of our sons. So we know. That's how my mother did. Because you raise the son, you know the character of your son. You know the wife that will fit your son. Not just we've been dating and we know ourselves. That's why it keeps breaking all the time. Give us the audacity again to be African mothers, and we'll do the right thing for the family. So good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Good night, family.
Bye. You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 # 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.